Apparently, after the very last Saturday, where I wasn't able to host the usual live stream, the community banded together and hosted a couple of lobbies to run some community games, and apparently some of them did end up being quite spicy. So today, we're taking a look at some of the games that were run during the, I believe it was called Brightworks No-Show lobby, or some Brightworks Abandoned Us lobby, something like that. I would never abandon you guys. Simply had sudden duties to attend to. Life gets in the way. Sometimes it gets in the way of bar, and there's really nothing we can do about it. I'm sure we're all familiar with it. But today, spawning as the red team leader, getting into this match hot and spicy. It's a commander that we've all seen and we all know and love. A commander that goes by the name Vanaja. Vanaja going to be playing on the front line here, not in the seas, but instead as a frontline Cortex commander, kind of like the boats of the land, if you will. Yeah, bots are sort of like the boats of the, I guess that's really tanks though, huh? Yeah, bots don't really have a comparison to the Navy units. Anyway, I'm trying to make it work for you, Vanaja. Oh, we're playing on Swirly Rock, by the way. I was just about to jump on over to the blue player, but I may as well mention that we're playing on the map called Swirly Rock. It's a good one, and we'll take a look around the map here in just a second. Let's go meet our blue team leader. Spawning in the backline over here. Spawning is a Legion commander, a commander that goes by the name of Reed Sweet, otherwise known as Ass Sweat, and I'll translate that just this one time for anybody who may be curious. But Reed Sweet here going to be playing as a Legion commander. There's that very awesome looking Legion bot lab. Oh, I get so excited every time I see these Legion skins. We used to have nothing, and slowly we've seen them iterated upwards and outwards, and slowly but surely making their way into their own unique thing. Yeah, they're suddenly becoming their own faction, and it's so cool to see. I'm 100% here for it. Obviously, I'm a massive proponent of the development of Legion. I mean, I don't work on it, right? Let me take a step back here. Let me recoil a second and say that I'm not a developer. I just love to support the guys who do actually put in the work to develop a lot of these models and a lot of the units and a lot of the concepts too. That's one thing I feel like a lot of people neglect often, is that it matters more what the concept of the unit is, not really the skin that you end up putting on top of it, right? Like, this is just a hound with a gun strapped to its forehead. But the concept of a fast rating unit with a burst fire weapon, that's unique and that's interesting. And I think coming up with those concepts is probably overall the harder work. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that though. As someone with experience doing neither, maybe I'm just talking out of my cheeks here. Anywho, distractions well aside, Swirly Rock. Swirly Rock is often considered the modern man's Coom, the educated man's Coom. It is the, yeah, kind of the pinnacle of what Coom wants to be but couldn't be. It's asymmetrical from top to bottom, which is different from the way that Coom usually plays out, but it does have some interesting features about it. It has these cool tentacle plants, or carnivore plants as they're called, with a little bit of metal tied up in them, but mostly made out of energy. Going to be very useful for any commander who should be able to get a resbot out there to eat them up. You can see immediately the red team sending a bunch of resbots forward to try and reclaim those. We need to hover over the plants right here and then hit the reclaim command in order to actually focus on the metal first. It's an easy mistake to make. Centaur chasing down one of these grunts that did manage to make it into the backline. Kurt Bunker going to be hailing at 35 open skill. My goodness. And sending one of these grunts into the backline. The Centaur, I do believe, is quite a bit faster here. It has a speed of 93 versus the grunts. Ooh, versus the grunts speed of 81. Yeah, so a little bit faster than the grunt. Means that eventually that'll be cleaned up quite nicely here. These early Centaur, lovely stuff. Pretty much the pinnacle of rating units. They're sturdy enough to stand up to one-on-one engagements right here. You can see the pawns not really performing excellently against them. Yeah, they're doing a great job of blasting them down. The Centaurs, that is. The pawns struggling a lot to deal with those units. Yeah, so the Centaur, basically a unit that relies heavily on getting that first shot opportunity, right? So if it can manage to blast you first, it'll usually kill your units and then it has an advantage. But if for whatever reason you're going up against a unit that can sustain itself out of that blast, you're actually going to be in a little bit of a tricky spot with those Centaur. Another one of those Legion units. I love to cover Legion units in these 8v8 casts. I feel like more and more we get to see Legion, but still maybe people are unfamiliar with them. This is a little bot called the Karkanos. It has a heavy laser phalanx kind of, I don't know, what is it called? Heat ray, I guess? It's got that, yeah, it tucks its little head behind its shield as well. And in the middle of that shield, it's a riot cannon sticking through as well. So it can also fire that riot cannon to disrupt light enemy forces like goblins, grunts, pawns, ticks, rovers, rascals, all that sort of stuff. Very useful indeed. Hero Grunt running around to the backline. Looks like this bad boy has 7 kills and counting. Gonna be continuing to try and get some value, but a shuriken up in the air will be enough to deny its rampage. Surely, there we go. Finally paralyzing that grunt after a long while. Centaur run by. Love the aggression, man. Legion players they're figuring it out, right? Yeah, I feel like more and more people are figuring out how to play Legion, especially in the Brightworks, I have to say. The amount of Legion players in Brightworks is definitely devastating. You're gonna be hard-pressed if you don't hop in on these live streams Tuesdays and Saturdays, 12 to 4 PDT. You're gonna be a little out of practice, and I can't help you if you're not gonna show up to the streams, the training, if you will. And yeah, you're gonna get swamped by Legion when it finally comes out of development. Hits the main patch, it's gonna be a shockwave for sure. And man, the Centaur looking absolutely busted here. Obviously, that's because there's no units to defend them. Yeah, Centaur gonna go on a rampage, given that there's nothing here to stop them. There we go, lab goes down right there as the Centaur blasted to smithereens with no grunts on the battlefield to shut these Centaur down. Just like that, these pink nightmares terrorize the back of the powder blue factory here. Humblegar now suffering a tragic loss of all production, going to be forced to rebuild with this commander on the front line. A beautiful run by right there from the yellow commander, certainly getting his values worth out of those Centaur. They're not cheap, they're 150 metal apiece, which is about the cost of a Thug, I do believe. The Ballista here 160, so just barely slightly less expensive than the heavy rocket bots, or the medium rocket bots. You can see that large phallic-shaped missile that those Ballista fire hits pretty heavy. They fire rather slowly, at least compared to Aggravators and Rocketeers, but of course they do quite a bit more damage, and I believe they have a little more splash too, which is one of those benefits that you pay for. Commander sacrificed in the backline right here for the blue commander. Meanwhile, we have a heavy laser tower coming up for Kyril on the front line. Meanwhile, we have Vanaja setting up a static defense, and Mosley trying to get aggressive with a bunch of Aggravator spam, headed out to the front lines here, trying to fight a rocket bot fight. His opponent, though, not really interested in that. Yeah, Kurt Bunker kind of fighting two lanes simultaneously here, as Launch 27 is trying to push forward here as well with a bunch of Aggravator. But obviously, more stuff beats less stuff. Vanaja's lane looking quite nice. Evangelion feigning an assault right here with the commander, obviously keeping it in front to threaten with the D-gun, using the Rocketeers to fire away into the distance and hopefully connect with as many of those tanks as possible. The high ground heavily contested over here as the Karkanos now are bashing it out with a bunch of Ballista. Very interesting engagement right here. Karkanos have the superpower of their shield. Essentially, while their shield is active, it means that they're going to take significantly less damage. Once the shield goes away, they suddenly take quite a bit more. They do regenerate their shield too. It's a little bit counterintuitive, or maybe just not well communicated, the way that those shields work. Maybe they should turn them into like a plasma shield or something, just so it looks like it'll regenerate here. I'm looking for one of them to pop their shield back on so we can take a look at it. I'm not sure if they have to be out of combat. Oh, there you go. You can see that one's shield just reappeared. Yeah, so after a certain number of time, I believe, or a certain time, I believe they get their shield back. And they gain that resistance once more. They become quite a bit sturdier. Until then, though, it definitely is a problem. Riot cannons on the front line here. Yeah, that Dragon's Jaw, the pop-up riot cannon turret, blasting away at whatever they can up here. The LLT wall, underpowered right now from the Brown Commander, means that this assault was fairly successful. It's a good old-fashioned tower creep right here from Commander Jack, just going for more and more of those riot cannons, continuing to push back the static defenses over here, and eventually trying to overwhelm the Brown Commander. We also do spy this gauntlet that's coming up right now. No way this thing's going to finish, though, without anybody building it. Yeah, a little bit of a pause right there because the Commander was trying to degun, but yeah, the Brown Commander slowly building that. I think if we stuck the commander on it, we'd probably be in a pretty good way as far as building this, and we do also have a little bit of a metal and energy overflow situation going on. A build power issue is what that is for the Brown Commander. Evangelion making out of this trade with 1% commander health remaining. The yellow commander scuffed, battered, bruised, and not defeated. Now eating up the corpse of that, that juicy green commander lying on the battlefield. A little unsure of how to spend that metal. Goes for a metal storage here to make sure that we can keep all that metal, but already a lot of it had been leaked away. Usually when you get a kill like that, my gut instinct is to go for T2. Eat up that commander, and you eat up most of your T1 army, and just go ahead and go for T2. Obviously, we can just pump out more and more T1 units, though, if we feel like the tech transition is going to be slow enough on the other side of the map, and just go ahead and try and push for a T1 positional advantage. Karkanos having some trouble now. Yeah, not finding a very clever engagement, or a very efficient engagement right here against these Ballista. Yeah, dancing back and forth, but it's a tremendous APM deficit to keep dancing those units back and forth. Love the way the Karkanos feel. Definitely not the right engagement for them. They're meant for anti-spam, essentially. They're meant to deal with big spams of grunts and pawns and that sort of thing. They are not meant to go up against Ballista here. So this is the right composition here for Isbad, going up against a unfavorable composition right now for ANCAP. We are reinforcing this with a couple of Ballista on the side of the tank commander, and putting a little bit of that long-range firepower mixed with the sturdiness of the Karkanos is not the worst thing ever. It does mean your army is fairly immobile, though, so also you can imagine a little bit of an assault force running by in a different direction could be quite a pain. Gauntlet now up and running right now. Oh, riot cannon. Juggling troops back and forth, blasting them. Oh, that's a funny little micro trick you could do, huh? You could fire a riot cannon behind a unit in order for it to blast it into range of the other static defense. That would be I mean, you gotta have a lot of spare APM to be microing that heavy in a game like Beyond All Reason, any sort of TA clone. But my goodness, that would be a pretty interesting way of making that work, huh? Medium tank run by now, just trying to push right through the middle of the map. We do have a Dragon's Jaw flamethrower, or Dragon's Maw, pardon me, firing away, quite literally, firing away at those medium tanks here. And of course the medium tank, once again showing us exactly why they're the king of kings on the T1 battlefield. So tanky, so much HP, and just like that, able to punch right through the defenses into the heart of the enemy composition, blasting down the geothermal right here of the red commander and popping metal extractors left, right, and center as they go. Now, did we find enough value here? Well, Resbots are already immediately jumping back on top of that geothermal, so that'll come back up and online very, very quickly. Still, the base is under siege here, and the T2 Constructor does fall right now for the yellow commander. That's an expensive loss. That T2 Constructor came all the way from the backline. We're going to need Resbots to pick that up, because if that Constructor gets reclaimed right here. Oh, no, pardon me. We do have a T2 Constructor right here as well. Never mind. All is not lost right now for the yellow commander. Can just go ahead and rebuild that T2 Constructor and send it out to the front line. Of course, resurrecting takes energy, and so resurrecting a geothermal drains you of basically all of your energy reserves. Means you're in a weird position where suddenly you can't really engage all too much, because otherwise you're going to run completely out of power. Once that geo's back up and running, though, I'm pretty sure Vanage is going to be feeling a lot more comfortable continuing to take that fight on the front lines. Sheldon already rolling their way out on the front line over here for the Green Commander, Kurt Bunker, now having to deal with a Gauntlet on the front line, which is a weird kind of effective counter for the for the Sheldon. However, the Persecutor Cannon here, firing away at that T1 defense, is going to have more than enough range to pop down that T1 static defense. Just like that. Gauntlet does fall. 1,250 metal right down the drain. Lavender Commander continuing the aggression. Oh, and it's lovely stuff indeed. This is great. I mean, just continuing the T1 bot production, there's so much metal available for the reclaim here on the front line. There's no reason why you couldn't continue pushing forward with the static defenses here, since you know you're just going up against a good old-fashioned T1 army right now from Green Jinzhou. It looks like there's basically no reason why you wouldn't want to just keep the pressure high. Going for some assault forces, just like Isbad's queued up right here. Perfectly done. Seafoam Green Commander Isbad going to be sending a couple of these forces around in different directions right now. You can see Centaurs routed past some of these metal extractors, going to be trying to get the kills on those and trying, more importantly, to find the enemy backline. There's the geothermal, by the way. The Cortex, or pardon me, the Legion geothermal now has its own skin, which looks quite cool. Definitely reminds me of Nod, right? Some Tiberium Wars Nod structure, right? It definitely looks a little bit like that. Geopops right there. Oh, that's a cool broken animation too, with the glass all shattered everywhere. Very nicely done. Anywho, a decent little run by, but I think one or two of those pulled away and onto one of the sides might have been slightly more effective. Still, though, winning this front line quite effectively here. These ballista tearing apart these static defenses, and again, remember, these are medium bots, not light bots like the Aggravator or the Rocketeer are. Here you can see the Aggravator. Rocket bot, good versus static defense. It's a light bot, as well as the plasma bots are also light bots, apparently. Centurion, the only other medium bot I can think of. It's technically called a swarm bot, or an anti-swarm bot. I think we all can agree that it's a medium bot, though. This Persecutor Cannon in the middle of the map is actually denying a lot of reach right here for the red team. Yeah, their position is looking quite a bit less attainable. Gunslinger's trying to help clean a lot of this up. The Ticks also helping out immensely, of course, swarming those rocket bots before they have a chance to fire. And the Sheldon Ball is slowly but surely building up right here for Vanage. The Sheldon have to stay alive. If the Sheldon get overwhelmed, it can really be the end of it, because once they hit that Death Ball, we've seen just how effective they can be. With 850 range, they can basically outpace any other unit in the game, so long as they don't get overwhelmed by speed, and that's exactly what these Incisor have. Wonderful pull right here on these Incisor. Zombie and sending a force forward. Beautiful jump on top of this base. Finding an open path right here in the face of the Orange Commander Kyril, and taking advantage of it in mass. Just like that, the advanced solar panels go down, and we also find the Sheldon Ball. This is a huge pick. This Sheldon Ball is a whopping nearly 2,500 metal. Nice self-demicro right there from the Fiend is always nice. gets a lot more value self-destructed in the middle of a bunch of units than it ever would just blasting away at them, especially when they're focused fired on it. And Incisors still being pesky in the back, though. Shuriken finally moving out to intercept a lot of these, well, somewhat. I believe the Shuriken were available for a good long while. They certainly could have cleaned all these up before they had destroyed Kyril's base, but unfortunately, no response right there from the air player in time. Bunch of Lobber light plasma bots moving forward. Interesting to see a light plasma bot, right? It can fire away a plasma projectile, but it's very, very flimsy. Only costing 60 metal is quite impressive. Means that when built up in tremendous mass, they can be very dangerous. Alone, though, they're quite flimsy, quite unremarkable. Mass Gunslinger here from Evangelion? Never sure how to pronounce that name. I've heard it pronounced a million different ways. Someday somebody's gonna break down the linguistics of it, the actual pedantics of how to pronounce it, and I'll be happy. Until that day, I'll keep saying whatever comes to mind. Sheldon Ball scuffed, battered, bruised, and looking for reinforcements right now. We have 5 Sheldon on the front line, certainly enough to threaten back some of these T1 armies, but not enough, I would say, to start getting really formidably aggressive. Scorpion turret firing away at a bunch of T1 trash. Pop-up turret from Evangelion. And not gonna finish in time. Commander without energy. Oh no, Yellow Commander goes down in a ball of thermonuclear smoke. Just like that, the core overheats, overreacts, overdamages, and goes up in smoke. The Yellow Commander now lying in ruin on the battlefield as the Sheldon Ball continues to grow. Okay. How much value can we get from it? An Arquebus up and running right now from KD-149. Arquebus are essentially the long-range siege unit of the Legion faction. They have a railgun that can fire intermittently. Not a fast fire rate, mind you, but definitely fires quicker than a sharpshooter, slower than a Sheldon. Trade-offs being, of course, that it requires line of sight in order to fire 100% accurately. Or rather, it requires line of sight to... What am I trying to say? It requires a direct line to the target. You can't fire over a hill or something like that. The same way Sheldon would be able to. This army is looking menacing. This is so many gunslingers right now. This is just T1 tanks. This is exactly the army that we want to engage right here. Hold on. This yellow army is made entirely of gunslingers here. If they pushed forward right now and intercepted with the green army, they would take a decent trade even in the concave as these units fall in from the sides. Or they could push southward here. Because this line has already been destroyed, they could push southward here and then sweep upwards into this base of the Green Commander. Obviously, very easy for us to see in hindsight, or with spectator vision. Opportunities like that and knowing when to take advantage of them is one of the distinctive markers of good players versus great players. One of the distinctive markers. That's the word I was reaching for. Here's those Arquebus. Love the way these things turned out. They used to be a little... What were they? Oh yeah, they were like a little... They were a little Vanguard. They were a little miniature Vanguard, but nowadays, looking quite suave, yeah. Look at those bad boys go, marching on all 6 of their hexapodal legs. Their tri-railgun cannons. Their little rotating cores and everything, too. What a dope unit. Come on, I want a picture of you firing. Just one, please. Oh, oh, oh. I know I'm missing battles left, right, and center. I really want to see these Arquebus firing. Did we get one? Give me a close-up. Give me a close-up. Smile for the camera. That's beautiful. That's beautiful right there. I know that annoys a lot of people when I go in for those cinema shots, but what can I say? I love the way this game looks up close. It's easy to stay in a zoomed-out perspective like this, and oftentimes this is the way that you want to play the game, from a higher perspective. But it's important to remember that this game is beautiful up close and personal. I mean, look at these units battling it out on the front lines here. Goblins sprinting to their doom. Running out of the blue laboratories and headed directly into the flamethrowers, scorpion turrets, Sheldons, twin guards, and advanced metal extractors of the red commander right there. Neck and neck game as far as economy goes. I do glance up at this every once in a while, and every single time that I have this game, it seems like it's been basically neck and neck for both of these teams. Slight ups and downs dependent on reclaim right now, but as the T2 is getting underway right here, the yellow commander are losing their advantage as the T2 heavy tanks are now rolling out of the battlefield. And of course, these gunslingers are going to have less and less opportunity to do anything about it. Gunslingers so potent against those T1 tanks, so flim-flamsy against the T2. Really, really pitiful as far as the T2 goes. Strider looking for an engagement. Rocket Spiders firing away right here, trying to track those Striders with a massive amount of success, actually. Yeah, I gotta say, that was probably some of the most consistent, successful connections I've seen out of a ball of Striders. Here's the LRPC of the Legion faction. Fires a 3-round burst of multi-shot projectiles. The little drone platforms firing away at this mammoth over here, revealing it with vision, but also activating any flanking bonuses while they're attacking from behind is always very powerful, very useful. Archip is quite good for dealing with this sort of thing. The mammoth with tremendous range, though, my goodness. Yeah, Archip is barely outranging the mammoth, actually. Orange Plasma Cannon continuing to fire in this direction. Trying to blast down the base of the pink commander, but a shield has already been thrown up and standing. It is bad. With the massive control over this northern high ground is fabulous. Of course, holding on to this Geo is wonderful. It's about time we get into that T2 production. We do have Phalanx coming up now, the shielded assault bot, similar to the way that the Karkanos function. The shielded assault bot has a shield that it means it takes, I'm not sure the exact damage reduction, a significant damage reduction, probably about 60%. Might be more, might be less. But it's significant. It's enough that when you lose a shield, there's potential for you to micro the unit back, and it would be worth it. Jinjo, in some trouble here. Gets jumped on by a bunch of Strider and dies right next to the laboratory. All the gauntlets have gone down, how many of them? At least 2 gauntlets have gone down over here, and we have the heavy laser towers that have fallen as well. Isbad now sending a whole bunch of Strider across, trying to find an opportunity to push into ANCAP Catrap's main facility. T2 metal extractors are under fire now, and that's definitely well worth trying to pop. Those metal extractors pumping out a whopping 12 metal per second is wonderful to shut off for the tank commander's production. ANCAP moving the commander into position to try and intercept some of these, but these Strider are far too quick. Shuriken here to try and shoot these down as well. Technically, the Strider minigun is an anti-air attack. They can fire up at the Shuriken. Yeah, there you go. You can see it's very inefficient, very ineffective, doesn't work very well, but it does work. So you have heard of me. Fighters trying to come save the Strider over here from the Shuriken. They do manage to win the air battle here, actually, at least on the southern side, yeah. Fighters peeling off to try and shoot down those Shuriken, as many of them as they can. They peel off enough of those Shuriken, I think, that the Strider can deal with all the rest. Nicely done by the air commander. Remembering his team, keeping them in mind. Boom goes the advanced geothermal right there of Kurd Bunker right in the middle of the field. Can't believe we went for an advanced geothermal when we have available at our disposal the might that is the Cerberus triple-headed beast of a plasma cannon. Purple Commander goes down to the massive wall of Sheldon, now marching forward. We also have a Mammoth included. Mammoth tremendous for their vision, but also for their sturdiness, of course. These LRPCs, so valuable. How many kills do these have? Combined total of 52 kills is impressive. Certainly very, very dangerous firing into the backline. Going to be popping as many of those units as possible. This is the long-range anti-air as well. It's a rail cannon. Shoots down a specific air unit with a single heavy burst. Very, very potent. The Green Commander given an opportunity to build back into this game, get some of that T2 up and running away with those heavy tank productions. Nicely done. Tiger tanks now blasting away at the main base here of the Yellow and Tan Commander. And capping a lot of trouble here. Yeah, Commander down to just 30% HP and falling. Heavy tanks managed to take that lab down. Commander falls here as well, and just like that, the southern side is in shambles. Phalanx going to be blasting away at a bunch of this T1 spam with relentless ease. Also perfect for dealing with Sharpshooter. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. One of the perfect counters to the Sharpshooter, the Phalanx, of course, because the first shot is always going to take the shield off the Phalanx. The second shot will bring it pretty low, but I don't think it'll even kill it. It means that these are perfect for pushing into Sharpshooter compositions. Now, granted, the Tan Commander, or the Brown Commander, rather, didn't have very many Sharpshooters available. Had quite a few, or, well, had one at least. I believe there was a few more on this ramp somewhere. Taps out of the game. DSA taking over the laboratory over here as these shotgun-wielding assault bots do manage to push into the lab over here. And you can see there were another one of those weird units that benefits greatly from being microed properly, right? If they have the right room, if they have the right spacing, if they close the distance on their opponent, they gain quite a damage boost as all their projectiles are more likely to hit. Of course, also very powerful the fact that they can hit multiple targets in an area. Just like this, those grunts having a rough time countering them. Looks like they have a little impulse on their shotgun blast too, which is quite nice. They go from being an area control unit with distance to being effectively a single target heavy hitter. An interesting dichotomy for a unit, not one we see very often in this game. Yeah. Goblin's a little bit stuck over here, but the Phalanx have cruised through the left-hand side. That's so much metal down the drain right now. The blue team's still holding their own, though. Yeah, or the red team, I mean, pardon me. Still holding their own. All these mechs in the middle of the map making up the difference. I believe this is an advanced exploiter, the armed metal extractor here. We'd also have SAM turrets coming up for anti-shuriken firepower. Dragons now rolling out of the laboratory for the TAN commander, trying to put those dragons in their most valuable position. But where are you going to put them? Incinerator is now available, and now it's blasting away at this mammoth, shedding off about 1% or 2% every second. Not bad, of course, but very slow. Not that there's anything that's really fast at killing a mammoth, per se, but this certainly isn't one of them. Really, sharpshooters and starlights are the only two things that come to my mind. Shiva now out on the field. Gonna be great for these big swarms of goblins, but there's already so many of them, and the mammoth don't care about these shieldings at all. The shield generator is going to fall immediately as the laser towers and the machine gun projectiles, the bullet projectiles. Do we need a new class of projectile for these? What are these called? Reveal your secrets to me. Machine gun. Okay, yeah. The machine gun class projectile. I cast spell bullet using wand of gun. Hamdog CDXX, 9% HP and falling. Aphises pop over here as the mammoths continue to roll their way forward or slowly step their way forward. Yeah, the commander cloaks to get on out of there, but already the energy deficit is massive. We do have this base in the back line, though, so losing those Aphises isn't the end of the world, but losing it on the front... Oh, that was the, pardon me, that was the Hot Pink Commander's base. I see. Hamdog's base in the back here, pumping out these T3 unit, and the Hot Pink Commander, KD-149, losing their base on the front over on that side. Shuriken paralyzing whatever they can on the left-hand side. These Phalanx shotgunners going to be continuing to march forward. Wouldn't mind seeing them turn their gaze towards the northern side, trying to pop all of this laboratory sector right here for the red commander. We do have a single Phalanx. The hero Phalanx. Well, alright, he sneaks in. He's a stealthy, shielded shotgunner bot. Not something I ever thought I'd say, but there we go. Needs to target, yeah, there we go. Needs to target down the build power here, I believe. There's enough build power to keep everything up and running, and it's all spread out enough that that Phalanx was never really able to do all too much on its own. Bombers coming in to finish the mission, though, and there they go, dropping their payload directly on top of the fusions of the red commander, and Vanaja loses it all. Massive advantage for the blue team now at this point, with the mammoths slowly creepy crawling their way forward. Massive spybot connection right there, beautifully done. Manages to paralyze two of them and nearly paralyze a third. A shuriken pull wouldn't be the end of the world here to try and mop up that third one, but already the grunts are swarming forward with the thugs and the thugs. Okay, T1 army here for the green commander zombie, continuing to pump out a bunch of those T1 bots, I suppose, using the laboratories to make spy bots and using the T1 labs to build just about everything else. You know what, I guess it works. The power of the mass las gun, truly the guardsmen of our time. The grunts sprinting forward directly into the face of danger, not a fear in the world, certain that their team will attain victory. Indeed they do, as already the southern side had crumbled. More and more pressure, unrelenting here, as the T3 was not enough to save the red team. Beautifully played right here from the blue team. Some wonderful back and forth action. I absolutely loved getting to showcase the Legion stuff. I feel like we got a good spread of units right here. I feel like everyone's kind of getting used to it a little bit. That really really makes me happy to see. Seeing people use Legion more and more often, it makes me feel like we're getting closer and closer to a finalized product, and I think that's probably the most exciting news that anybody could receive. Anyway, sure hope you enjoyed this cast. I sure hope you'll come check out the live streams Tuesdays and Saturdays, 12 to 4 PDT, and I sure hope you won't forget to smile. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the very next cast. Peace out, everybody.